And we're going to continue with our conversation. Personal leadership philosophy.
Yeah, great topic today. Appreciate you having me on. Always love these conversations with you.
All right. So, what shaped your leadership philosophy more? Faith, law enforcement, or battlefield study?
Well, definitely faith. I learned when I was a little kid in Sunday school, the answer is always Jesus, right? Um, I think to me, my faith walk has been one that has taught me that if you lead from a servant leadership perspective, um, that really is the way. That's the way that Jesus led. That's the way that he led his disciples. You see that in his washing of their feet, the night before he's going to die. But just the way he cared for people and put other people's needs before his own. And I would love to say I did it just like Jesus, but I didn't. There was a lot of times where I got misguided or put my own wants and desires for somebody else's. But obviously, when you take that kind of a mindset and then you compare it to the experiences that God gave me in law enforcement, whether as a state trooper, an FBI agent, or in teaching leadership development, they always tell people if you ever want to get good at something, go teach it because it forces you to study it in a way that you wouldn't study it otherwise. And that can come from studying the scriptures to, tactical manuals to leadership or philosophy things. When you teach it, it makes you have to get better at it. And so teaching with my dear friend John at the CIA Strategic Thinking Workshop and the Battlefield Leadership Seminars, it really gave me some opportunities to reflect on my own personal leadership style while we were up there having conversations with the groups and the teams that we would take up to those locations. So really kind of a mesh, but yeah, I would definitely say my faith is the one thing that God has used to help me create my own personal leadership philosophy the most.
And let's see, that's interesting. You talk about the philosophy through faith, because ultimately, what we're doing in leadership is building relationships. And how can you build a relationship without showing love for that person, caring for that person, and really want to see the very best happen for that person?
Yeah, relationships are crucial. I mean, that's God made us to be in community. He made us to be in relationship with other people. But that's one of the challenges with relationship, especially relationship in business, because sometimes you have to make business decisions that aren't great for your relationship with that person. And other times you have to make decisions that aren't going to be best for your business, right? Like maybe you don't have that meeting on Friday night, so you could take your spouse out for a date night, or you make sure you're done with all of your business meetings by 5 o'clock so you can make it to the kids' sporting events or dance recitals or theater productions, whatever the case may be. Um, but the relationships really are the crucial element to it because if you can develop a trust with a person, that really opens up a lot of opportunities because now they may be willing to take a risk on, let's say, a product that you're offering to them or a solution that you're bringing to them. Because they know you, they may be willing to take a risk and say, "Hey, Jody, for instance, he's never steered me wrong before. I'm going to take a look at this thing. If he thinks it can help me, I'm going to take a look at it and see if it's going to help me or not." But you're exactly right. The relationships are crucial in it, and even just working relationships with an organization are crucial.
And the relationships you can make from podcasting. That's what I keep telling Jody. Just start sending guests because you never know where the magic's going to happen off of podcasting. I had a relationship today with a guest that's a celebrity, and she now wants to go and meet with me out in LA when I'm in September. And then also she's interested in working with one of my clients. So that's the power of relationships. But if you don't go with that enthusiasm and really wanting to get to know that person, people can read it and they're like, no, thank you. That's not happening. And I think that's what makes the best leader is someone who's excited. So how do you personally handle criticism or strategic disagreement? This is interesting. I find this really fascinating because I think as human beings, we don't like criticism and we don't like to have things not going well. But how do you handle that?
Yeah, so I call it trooper mode. I go into what I call trooper mode, which is back when I was a young state trooper and you pull somebody over and you get up there and they're just screaming at you and they're cussing at you. And what I figured out was they weren't mad at Jody. they were upset that Trooper Corbett stopped them because they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing. And so I just let them go. I just let them rant and rave and be upset. And, um, I just continued on with professionalism and try to love them as best I could. I still would issue them a summons or do whatever I had to do as far as what I had initiated the traffic stop for. But I found this to be really helpful too, when I went on to become a crisis negotiator with the FBI, because one of the things they talk about is don't make it personal. Don't let anything the person you're talking to be a personal attack against you. And so that skill set came in handy for me. Um, Criticism is criticism. I mean, I think a lot of it's the perspective, right? The other big thing is who's it coming from? In today's era, there's a lot of people running their mouths, especially on social media, about stuff they have no idea about. They have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. They've never been in that experience. You can't fault a police officer for something that happened on the side of the road when you're getting a 5-second snippet of video. Well, that looks really bad. Well, yeah, you didn't see the 15 minutes before of where the guy was threatening to cut him with a knife or hit him with a bottle or hit him with a stick or something. And so I think to me, really who the criticism is coming from is important. Like if it's a subject matter expert, I definitely would put more weight into that than just some rando coming and yapping off about how they think some of the things should go. And strategic disagreement, I love how you term that, because strategic disagreement, that's what strategic development is all about. It's about talking through different things, looking at things like unintended consequences and having a discussion of what could go wrong and how can we potentially lessen the opportunities of those things impacting us achieving our objectives. Using some of the other tools, strategic disagreement can come from everything from not understanding what your objectives are, what it is you're trying to do, maybe not understanding what the center of gravity of your organization is or what your mission set is. Because if you get your center of gravity wrong, your adversary can come and take that out pretty easily. Not understanding the center of gravity for your adversary and how to eliminate that. So having strategic disagreement, that's part of generating a strategic plan is thinking of ideas from multiple different sources, multiple different people who would have a vested interest in that process and letting them share their thoughts, letting them share their experiences, letting them share what they know about a specific subject matter that could help you in achieving that goal.
No doubt. And it stings at times, Jody. It stings when you get you get criticism, and you have to decide how you're going to handle it. Are you going to, argue and get angry, or are you going to come up with a solution?
Well, it's
And
like
that's
failure. Failure is a great point to that, Neil. Like how you respond to failure says a lot, right? I think for most people, we've all had moments where we failed. I failed spectacularly a couple of times. But the thing is, you're still swinging for the fences. You're still trying to try it because otherwise we become timid. We become so conservative, so cautious in our strategic thinking that we can't see the bigger picture. We never
Mhm.
get beyond that. And it can sting if you let it. If you say, "Okay, Lord, what just happened here? What did I just experience?" And be able to learn from that and grow from it. I think it's a much different takeaway.
It definitely is. So, if you could give one piece of advice to the next generation of leaders, what would it be?
Um, yeah, I would definitely say you have to know who you are. And I know you and I and Sherry did a podcast about that and understanding that we got one coming up here on identity. But know who you are. Know what your gift, skills, and talents are. Know what God has blessed you with. And having, obviously for me, having a relationship with Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, that's a big part of who I am. But knowing who you are, because I think sometimes, I would love to tell you I'm going to play in the NBA. Well, I'm like less than 5'9". I weigh 200 pounds. I'm like a little short, blocky guy. I'm not playing in the NBA. I may want to, I may really have a desire to, but I'm not going to be able to play in the NBA. You have to know what you're good at and stick to it. I think that's one of the things we find challenging in this world is we keep getting told work on the things you're not good at. And my argument would be no, forget those things. Take the things that you are good at, the things that God has gifted you with, and use those gifts, those skills and talents, and the areas you're weak in. Find somebody who's good at those things and build that relationship like you talked about earlier.
Yeah, because find it. And that's the thing. And I think a lot of times we kind of get so caught up in the noise of what certain people are doing, we're not thinking about how we're growing and looking at these things. We compare ourselves to people way above us, and then we punish ourselves for not being there. Instead of what's going to take me to that next step as a leader? What's going to take me to that next thing? But we always have to be reminded from it. And the only way to do it is to really use meditation and prayer to kind of say, okay, let me get centered and focused again and say, let's just get this start again and begin again. Yes, some people might be performing better than me at this point, but is it because of my work? No, it's because of circumstances. Am I going to blame those circumstances? Absolutely not. I'm going to move forward and figure out the next thing.
Yeah, I love how you said start over again. Because I think, God is a God of redemption. He can redeem, he can take broken things and make them new. He can bring beauty out of ashes. We see that in the scripture. And I think for us to be reminded that, hey, even though the situation I'm in is not great, there is a chance to rebuild, to start over. So I loved how you incorporated that.
No doubt. So, your philosophy, when you go and say how I build this philosophy of leadership, you talked about many core values. What do you think in these core values of leadership makes you identify a great leader? Not you as a leader, but other people as a leader. What defines them that drives you to say, this guy can really lead well? And I don't think leaders are somebody that don't have a team. You got to have a team. You could be a leader as a solopreneur, but it's a little different type of leader. I'm really focusing on those leaders that are leading big organizations, big situations. What things stand out to you?
So I think a lot of people in their minds, they think about leadership and they think about the experiences I had in the state police or the FBI or the US military, where there's someone up there barking orders, telling people where to go, what to do, how to do it. That's how they view leadership. And my philosophy has always been, I want the person who can bring together people, who can take the time out to develop personal relationships with folks to where they know that those individuals feel genuinely that they are loved and cared for. And so what I look for is I look for people that, and these folks won't raise their hands. They're not going to tell you I should be a leader. You have to go find them. Like you have to look at your organization and you have to say, okay, one of the things I always like to do is um, make a list of 3 people in our organization who you could work for. And when you see the same name come up on multiple people's lists, over that spans, that's probably one of the people you want to go get because those people are connecting. They're already maybe a team lead or they're a peer who has more experience or whatever. But when people start recognizing and self-selecting individuals around them that they would go work for, that's a great way to go find a leader in your organization that you should probably get some training and mentorship for and get them into an elevated position because those are going to be the people who care about the employees and the people underneath them. Now, if it's a specific technical expertise that you need, you may want to do something different. NSA does this very, very well, where they have some incredibly smart nerds over there and they supervise 0 people because they are not people. They have a very specific, unique skill set. And the organization realizes it, has moved them up into management or leadership position, but they don't supervise anybody because they're not there to take care of folks. They're there for that specific technical expertise that they have.
All right, Jody, where's the best place we can check you out? Where can we go?
LinkedIn, my podcast, and my YouTube TV station you put up for me.
YouTube, Jody Corbet. Check out Jesus and Ugly Jody, now available on Spotify and soon Apple. And yeah, definitely appreciate it, Jody. Thanks again.
Thank you.
That was a special trauma cast of the Neil Haley Show, the Storehouse Media Group podcast, and Jesus and Ugly Jody.